Hello, welcome to the second episode of the Bridge of Awareness channel. So I hope you saw the first part, because that's where we're picking up from, and how it was meditation, I believe, that opened up the door for me to an experience which transformed my life in healing me of my illness and also opening me to the knowledge, for that's what it is the knowledge that I am a healer, and that is how I needed to spend my life. The problem is that even though you have that knowledge and you believe it, you don't know where to start. I'd read all the books about the healers of the day, sensational healings. You could pack the Albert Hall with healers, but that didn't feel right to me. So it was a puzzle, but I wanted to know, I really wanted to know what this healing stuff was about. Well, one day I was thinking about this as I sat with a cat on my lap. I'm very fond of cats. This one was a farm cat. It wasn't very well, but as I stroked it, it was purring and having a nice time. And I thought, I'll try giving healing to this cat, see if I can do it. So I kind of thought healing down through my hands and into the cat. And immediately the cat gave out a massive yowl, jumped off my lap, dashed across the room with me in hot pursuit, and it jumped onto a windowsill, and before I could reach over and open the window to let it out, it had been very sick right across the windowsill. So that was interesting, wasn't it? Well, it was very good for the cat because it disposed of its tapeworms, and very good for me because it said something about the possibility that this really was something I needed to do. It was good too the way it was done, I think, because a cat doesn't have any expectations, and in fact it didn't even know what I was doing. So it wasn't even about having an open mind or any expectations. So there we are. After that, I started practicing on the children, and they got a bit fed up with that. One of them said he wanted to go to a doctor like other children. Anyway, that was quite successful as well. So over the next 15 years or so, I was able to pursue this understanding of healing as I got myself a job and got a mortgage with the help of a dear friend, moved house, and just continued the healing as best I could while bringing up the children and earning a living. I had a lot of interesting experiences over that period. But we must get on towards the teachings of Zed. So the boys eventually left home, and I left work after a while, took a part-time job to support myself, spent more time healing, until the time came when I just knew that I had to devote myself full-time to healing. So I left the security of a job, pension, company car. And though times were hard financially, not for one moment have I ever regretted that decision. It was absolutely what I needed to do. And as I did it, so the response to my healing started to change. And I think that making the commitment was the key to that, putting all my energies into the work I was to do. People started to physically move during the healing sessions. Not everyone, because obviously not everybody needs to move, but it was self-correcting. So if they needed something that required physical movement, that's what they spontaneously did. And I must emphasize that I do not touch or suggest. I simply offer my energy and observe. That's all I do. One early example of this that springs to mind was when I was asked by an acquaintance if I would see her husband. He was a long-distance lorry driver, and he'd injured his back and was confined to bed, which meant he couldn't work and all that entailed. So, of course, I went round to see him, and he was indeed confined to bed, and his wife and I stood by the side of his bed and had a chat with him, and then I started the healing. And after a while, he turned over onto his front, and as he did so, his pyjama jacket rode up his back. We could see his spine from just below the waist to between his shoulder blades. And we watched in amazement as things started to move under the skin. The man himself was perfectly relaxed, quite heavily on the bed, not moving his limbs or anything. Quite relaxed, in fact. And yet, under his skin, we could see the muscles moving, and they appeared to be pushing and pulling his spine. Well, it was very interesting. I can't remember the final outcome. I know he felt better, but I can't remember any more than that. But again, that's the kind of thing that was starting to happen. There were also people who entered altered states of consciousness in the healing and would sometimes access painful memories from long ago that would surface, traumas that would come out, and they were obviously what was causing the problem, because it was a healing process. And others would experience beautiful things and colours and different places they would go to. I'd never heard of this, never seen any reference to it at all. But eventually I came up with a name for this spontaneous self-healing, because that's what it was. It wasn't anything I did or motivated as such. And I called it dynamic healing. Dynamic because it was in movement. Now, at the same time that this was happening, pardon me, I'd already started up in my home a little meditation and spiritual development group, as well as having my healing practice. And we had a diverse number of people coming to that group. I mean, it started off fairly wide interests, but it luckily soon narrowed down to people who were pursuing a very deeper meaning of life. One of them was a nice lady who was called Mo, and Mo had trained within the spiritualist movement as a medium, so she was well practiced in mind control, and she was of great help when the next event happened. And that was a referral from the local GP doctor of a man called Malcolm, who was suffering from depression. And the doctor said to him, "Well, there's nothing more I can give you except pills. You'd better go and see Jane." So that's how I met Malcolm. Malcolm had already been introduced to meditation through a friend who studied Buddhism. So the healing, whilst new to him, was not alien. And we sat and had healing sessions, and in those sessions he entered different states of consciousness. And one of the early experiences was when he saw a church window with stained glass, and the light was shining through the colours onto a table. On the table a lamp burned, and underneath the stained glass were the words 1 Corinthians 13. And the words are, "Though I speak with the tongues of man and angels, yet have not love, I am become as a sounding brass or tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and comprehend all mysteries and all knowledge, though I have all faith so as to move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing." And that, I believe, was to point the way to the work we were to do. One piece of guidance we were given was, "Trance only to seek true knowledge and not as proof of trance. The way I come is very plain and lacks spiritual sensationalism. It's at odds with those on a lower plane. Our communication must be egoless and not an individual being special. Seeking spiritual awareness and truth, that is the purpose." Again, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I hope you'll join me next time when we look into mediumship and other quite interesting things. Thank you for joining me. Goodbye.